Great, good evening. So I'm Kirk Torrance. Feel free to take down my contact information there if you want to get in touch. It'll be back up at the end of the talk if you're running a bit slow there. So I have an idea that privacy is a foundational requirement for freedom. And I got to this conclusion by thinking about where I grew up. I grew up in apartheid South Africa, and although born in the UK, I grew up there. And I've been helping the SNP over the last decade with their electoral success using social media and new technologies. And at one point I thought to myself, I wonder if apartheid could have ended sooner if there was social media back then. And then it got to the conclusion that actually apartheid did end through social media, just not the way that we imagine it today. So that media was newspapers, books, songs, it was theatre shows, it was a pirate radio station. It was physical media being given to individuals through a human network. And it's a lot easier to keep your privacy up when you have a human-to-human network than it is on a centralized network like that we have today. So a personal example, my parents used to listen to Radio Moscow, used to tune in. It was an illegal pirate radio station. It was broadcast across the world through to Zimbabwe, and then from Zimbabwe into South Africa. And people used to tune in just to get a little bit of a sense of what was going outside the bubble, because of course the media in South Africa was government run. So in addition to that, we had our grandfather Joe Torrance, who used to send over the Scotsman newspaper once a week. So you'd have like last week's news arriving. But it was a wonderful insight as to what was happening, what the outside opinion was about what was going on in South Africa. But these were social medias. These were things that gave an opinion about what was happening and allowed you to then hand it off to somebody else. So for instance, after my dad read the paper, he handed it off to his colleagues at work. And sometimes you'd not get the newspaper through. Perhaps it got intercepted at the post office. And sometimes Radio Moscow didn't broadcast. Perhaps its illegal transmitters were shut down. But the paper would return and the broadcast would start again, and these sorts of social media started to come back. You couldn't stop it. They all got through the security net in some sort of way. So privacy, it's easier to maintain in a human network, as I mentioned. But I think it's a responsibility that we all need to be accounted for. And it's up to us to make sure that we are protect our own privacy, not just on an individual level, but collectively, because I think freedom very much is at stake if we don't do it. So we now live in a surveillance society, and I believe that privacy is more important than it ever has been. So this was the basis on which I started to think about how could I contribute to solving a problem that seems to be getting worse. So I started to think about how could we use physical tools on mobile phones and your laptops to protect your privacy when you're using the internet. And this is where spy curtains came about and the PrivacyKit. So I'll go over a little bit about what this exactly is. You have microphone blockers and camera blockers for your phones and your computers. So this is a 3.5 millimeter audio jack version with a handy keyring to keep them safely in when you're not using them. And we have a Lightning port version. We also have USB-C now as well, which we can get to a little bit more detail. But as you can see, you put them into your laptop when you're not using your microphone capabilities, as well as on your cellular telephones. Likewise, for the camera blocker, you stick them over your camera, and it's a little sliding action that opens and shuts as and when you need it. So you have physical control over your devices now. So we started looking for partners that could help us develop these things and create a sort of mass consumer brand around privacy, rather than making it this geeky thing that it seems to be. I mean, some of these camera blockers are already existing in the market, but it's very, very much a kind of small subsection of society. We want to make this kind of a mass product. So we found this wonderful partner factory in China, and they've been fantastic at helping us develop this stuff. But we've had some hiccups along the way. So we started off with the 3.5 millimeter audio jack, which all phones had, all computers had up until recently. Whilst we were putting this all together, Apple decided to kill the audio jack. So we had to go back to the drawing board, unfortunately. And it turns out that when you want to use any Apple hardware, you have to become Apple certified. It's quite a long and drawn-out process and costly as well. So saving ourselves the hassle in case it didn't work, we bought some Apple earphones and cracked them open. I took the chips out and got the soldering kits and see we want to find out whether our chip would actually work. You know, would it cross over from the audio jack to these new interfaces? And luckily they did, with a little bit of adjustment. So now we have 3 mic blockers. The original audio jack one. We have the Type L, which is for the Lightning port. Again, Apple doesn't allow you to use its branding in your products, so you can't call it a Lightning jack like we wanted to do, for instance. So we called it the Type L. And this is the Type C for the USB-C. Because, of course, Samsung and all the other manufacturers of mobile phones also dropped the audio jack shortly after Apple did it. So there's some surprising discoveries that we had along the way that kind of shocked us a little bit. Outside of having to deal with the prototypes and having to change things around, this was just, as I said, a geeky problem that we thought would quickly solve and maybe make a bit of cash. But everyone that we showed the thing to immediately said, that's it. I need that. Where can I buy that? And it happened so that one night I was having dinner with a mentor of mine and showed him it, and he offered to invest straight away. So from a little kind of sideline business, a little product that I thought we could put together and maybe make a bit of cash in order to make some money for a bigger project that we were wanting to do, this all of a sudden mushroomed into a company in and of itself with international production agreements and all sorts of other things that are going on at the moment. So some other things when we were building this product that I had no idea that would have happened was all the kind of regulations that you need for the different markets that we're addressing. So the United States, Canada, the EU, the UK now is a separate entity because of Brexit, and that threw up a whole bunch of uncomfortable situations. How do we dealing with all these sorts of different things? If you make one full stop in a form incorrect, all of a sudden you have to start again and go back to the drawing board. So I thought there's very much a kind of an analogous situation when you're actually producing software as to when you're producing hardware. There's a lot of things that you need to make sure are working and or measuring up. Otherwise, you could have your shipment arriving in port and being turned around by customs and excise if you don't have all the documents picture perfect. So that was a very big surprise. Another thing that was really quite of interest to us is that when you're actually packaging a product, a physical product, and you're looking at ways to get it distributed into supermarkets, which is one of the avenues that we're looking at, you need to have a barcode, and you have to have various different recycling aspects to it, and you have to make sure you're checking all the chemical and the material components. You're not somehow illegal in your country or one of the territories that you're addressing. But the barcode thing was a very interesting thing. Much like an IP address, each company has its own unique code, and then each product within that company has its own unique code as well. So if there's anything at all in the product that changes whatsoever, even if you put a full stop on your packaging, you need a new barcode. These are little things that we had no idea that we were going to be faced with, but have caused us some hiccups. So there's two routes to market that we're really taking right now. One, we have a business-to-business kind of play, and it's a white label kind of version in a nice kind of gift box for organizations to give as corporate gifts to their clients or to their staff. One of the big things is that if you're a company, you're spending tens of millions of pounds on your network security and your CCTV cameras, and you've got security at the door. Some people even have soundproofing around their boardroom, much like the banks in Edinburgh. And everyone sits around with their mobile phones on the table with a constant stream going into Google and Facebook and whomever else may be listening at the time. So this is a product set that seems we're aiming to address this problem, to allow people to have total security in terms of their private conversations. We also have a version for the consumer, which we're hoping to get into the supermarkets in short order. Currently, we're just waiting for approval from Apple to pass our box designs, which is something that they have an interest in doing as well, and a few other little things that are loose ends that need to be addressed. But once that's all done, we're hoping to be selling these things in the coming weeks. So I hope you'll all take a note of the website address and have a look at the products when they're available. And that's my address again.